You're listening to Paris: A State of Mind on Paris Underground Radio. For more great content, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Paris Underground Radio.
Welcome to Paris: A State of Mind. Join us as we talk about the good, the bad, the ins, the outs of property rentals and purchases in and around Paris. We'll have topics for renters, owners, and visitors, share questions we are regularly asked, and more. My name is Gail Boisclair of Perfectly Paris, and my co-host is Marie Pistinier of Lokim Paris. Be a part of it. Both of us are proud members of the SPLM, the first representative body of furnished rental professionals. Hello, everyone. We are back in the studio for another exciting episode of Paris: A State of Mind. And we're also continuing on with our conversation of asking people how they like living in their arrondissement. Today, we're going to head back over. One other time we went to the 15th, and we're going back to the 15th in this episode, but we're going to a different area of the 15th. And I have a very special guest, Jennifer Greco, also known as Chez Loulou, the cheese expert that is eating her way through France for I don't know how many years, but I'm just going to let Jennifer introduce herself now. Hey, Jen, tell us a little bit about you.
Thanks, Gail. I'm really happy to be here, especially to represent the 15th because it has kind of an interesting reputation. So I've been in France for 20 years. I'm from the US, and I've had a food blog for 18 years. And for about the last 14 or 15 years, I can't remember anymore, but I started a project to try to taste every cheese made in France. So that is it is my big passion, is trying all the cheese. I've had over 460 now. There's approximately over 1,500. So that is my thing, is eating cheese.
That is crazy. Oh my goodness. Well, that's quite a challenge that you're taking on.
Yes.
So I already said to the audience that you live in the 15th, but what area in the 15th do you live in? Like, what is your closest metro station?
The closest would be Boucicaut on line 8. We're also a little bit further to get to Convention on line 12. So it's easy to get around the city because we've got two lines that aren't very far from our place.
Oh, that's wonderful. And now how long have you lived in the 15th?
It's going on 8 years now.
My gosh, it seems like you just moved to Paris yesterday.
I know. We were in the South for many years and in Normandy for a few years. So we moved to Paris. Well, I commuted in from Normandy for about a year, as Gail would know, because I slept on her couch a few times.
And so why did you choose to live where you lived? Was it just a matter of what you found, or was it kind of maybe where you wanted to be?
It definitely was not a neighborhood we were looking at. Didn't have a lot of friends, told us it was really boring, don't bother. But we had such a difficult time finding anyone who would rent to us because my husband's retired and I am self-employed, and the rental laws in France are quite strict. So we tried a lot of other places, a lot of other apartments around the city, but no one would rent to us. And finally, after looking for so long, someone finally would. So we just took the apartment.
Well, it's true. That's a typical story, actually, what you just said. First of all, your difficulties of trying to find the apartment. And secondly, just taking what you could get because, wow, somebody wants to rent to us. Hurrah. So you said that you felt that it was kind of dull and not very interesting and so on and so forth. After living there for 8 years, would you say that you feel like that now? Or like, would you wish that you were living in a different area instead?
No, I really, really love it. It's, I think, one of the biggest, or if not the biggest. I know it's the most populated. Lots of great parks. It feels more open, like there's more space, there's more air. The sidewalks are a bit bigger. And it does have lots of little pockets of market streets. So there's the Rue Cambronne, there's the Rue de Commerce. So there's like all these little villages within the 15th. So it does feel, I think people think it's really boring, but it's actually very, very buzzing, and lots of great markets as well. market streets and weekly markets. So I really enjoy that.
I think it's funny how you compared it to being like a little bit of a villagey area with different things. That's a good way to describe it because I kind of, like you, I didn't know anything about the 15th. And like you, I thought it was dull and boring. And why would you ever want to go there? But I have seen that there is so much more to offer. So, I mean, for somebody that doesn't know the area at all and they're maybe thinking of a place to move, do you think that it has a specific vibe? Could you say maybe it's like best suited for a certain type of resident, like swinging singles, couples, families, and so on?
I would definitely say more couples and families. It's not like the Bobo 11th or 10th. It's, every arrondissement has its own mayor, and our mayor is very family friendly, puts a lot of money into schools and making it easy for families. And yeah, again, with the great green spaces, the parks everywhere, I think it's has that vibe more than other parts of the city.
Yeah, it definitely does have a lot of green spaces. I remember there's like a picnic spot that we went to not far from your place, a little bit.
A little park. Yeah, see, that's just another one. There's two giant parks right at the edge of the 15th. One is named after, it's where the old Citroën car factory used to be. And then there's another one called the Parc Georges Brasson, which is like it's like being in the country. There's a vineyard there. There's hills and trees and a lake, not a lake, but like a large body of water. And the first time I went there was during some of our COVID lockdowns. I went for a long walk one day and ended up over there, and it's just beautiful. So lots of green, lots of air. I feel like I can breathe because I work with people who visit Paris in Saint-Germain and the Marais, and leaving those neighborhoods, which are very much more dense and populated and smaller sidewalks. And when I get home, I feel like I can breathe a bit.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I find even though, well, okay, I could live kind of in a busy part of my area, my quartier, but I feel like you do when I do get back from those busy areas like the Marais, Saint-Germain and things. I do feel like, woo,
Yeah.
space, the final frontier. For any Star Trek fans out there. So is there something that you wish you knew about the area before you moved into the neighborhood that you think our listeners should know?
I guess I wish I had spent more time exploring it when we were looking for apartments, because it is so big that there's little, well, as I mentioned before, it is like villages. So I really like that we're closer to the Rue de Commerce, but then we have a mutual friend who lives closer to the Rue Cambron, and I love that market street too. So I kind of wish I had known that there was so much going on and I had been able to maybe pick and choose. But of course, no one would rent to us, so it doesn't really matter anyway. So I feel like we got very lucky where we ended up. And people need to keep an open mind. I have still friends who are like, oh, I could never live there. And I had another friend come visit from the Marais, and when they showed up at our door, he bit of a drama queen, but he was like, oh my God, are we still in Paris?
I used to think that.
You used to joke about needing your passport to come visit. So
yeah, exactly. Since I live in the 18th and you live in the 15th, we couldn't be that much further away from each other, could we?
No, but it's a great neighborhood.
Well, and is there anything else that you'd like to add about this neighborhood? Pros, cons, or anything else?
Oh, I'd say it's all pros. It's funny, I look at people on different websites who are planning trips to Paris, and many people want to be near the Eiffel Tower, and many people say, oh, it's so far, it's so far. And I mean, I'm much further down from the Eiffel Tower, but it doesn't feel like it's that far away from many things because of the good transport connections. And we're not far from the Gare Montparnasse either. So I would tell people that it's a great neighborhood to live in. And if you want to be in Paris, but not want to be surrounded all the time by people visiting the city, like if you really want to feel like you're in the real Paris, it is a good place to go. Good place to live.
I do think, as you say, people do need to keep an open mind of any preconceived ideas, negative and positive, that they might have about, well, like any big city, Paris, the different areas, and so on. I'm sure, as you said, you used to live in New York. I'm sure it's the same in New York.
Yeah. Well, I have the same preconceived ideas about parts of Paris as well. So parts that look really boring, but I know people think that way about the 15th. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Just keep it a secret. It's really boring. You don't want to move it.
Yeah, don't let the cat out of the bag. So here's now a question, and it's my final question for you. If you could live in any area of Paris, anywhere you wanted, there is no issues with budget, no issues with apartments. You could have your perfect apartment in Paris. Where would it be and what would it be like?
Okay. So I would probably stick within, I do really enjoy the 12th. I still love the 15th. I rented a room in the 12th when we were living in Normandy, and I was apartment hunting, and I did out near the Marché d'Aligre, and I really liked it out there. Again, it feels like a real neighborhood, real part of Paris. And I love the 5th as well. I guess I would I would live up in the 18th too. I would love something on the top 1 or 2 floors with a big roof terrace.
Oh, nice.
Somewhere with nice views, lots of light, have some green space. So yeah, that would be ideal. But I probably would not want to be out in the 16th. I think it's really boring.
So it's funny that you say that, because the next person that I'm going to have on in the next episode lives in the 16th, because it does get a really bad rap. So we're going to see if they can, make it any better.
Well, it's really beautiful out there. It's very wealthy. It's beautiful, but it doesn't feel like there's a lot going on. So maybe I am wrong.
Well, I guess we'll all find out in the next episode.
Yes.
If you're enjoying this episode of Paris, A State of Mind, you may also be interested in our sister podcast, The Heart of You. Join Annette as she helps you explore your soul through intuition, spirituality, and more. Paris, A State of Mind will be right back after a word from our sponsors. And now back to Paris, A State of Mind. So now, before we go, I briefly introduced you in the very beginning, but can you please tell the listeners about your blog, how they can contact you, and maybe some of the other things that you do? I think you just started something new.
Yes, I did. Very exciting. So I've been teaching people about French cheese for the last 8-9 years, and decided to go out on my own. I still work with a company, but I'm doing a couple days a week, mainly Thursdays and Fridays, starting in April, a French cheese tasting experience with wine as well. And you can contact me right now through my email, which is loulou.france@gmail.com. So it's LOULOU France@gmail.com. And the information is on my blog, which is chez.blogspot.com, I think. I haven't looked at that in a while. And then I'm on Instagram too. That is Chez Loulou France. So all of the information I'm sharing at those places, and that's the best way to get a hold of me. I can get messages on Instagram as well. And will you put those in the blog notes, or excuse me, the show notes?
Yeah, I will.
Yes, I'm really excited. It's a small group. I'm trying to make it fun, trying to make cheese accessible. It's a subject that many people come to France. They want to learn about because it's such an important part of the culture here, but they don't really know what to do, where to begin. It's kind of an intimidating subject. So that's kind of my whole goal, is to make it feel more approachable and fun, and so people can learn and eat delicious things at the same time.
Woohoo. And is it going to be like in a space, or is it going to be walking, or how?
Well, it's going to be in a wine store. So I will go shopping in advance, and then people will just come, show up, sit down. It's a really beautiful, light, airy wine store. It's near Bastille. And then it's just 2 to 2.5 hours of eating and drinking.
Oh, that's good. Woohoo. I love to do that. I like doing that every day.
If people want to privatize, then we can all go visit a fromagerie. Things there's some flexibility there. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that is very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for all of that. And just so our listeners know, I would have made this podcast last a little bit longer. But if you've listened to previous episodes of Paris, A State of Mind, you know that the country of France sends anyone who needs to get trained in renovations to my building, because there's always building work going on. And there is really noisy renovations that are going to start in probably a few minutes. I literally only have a break for maybe an hour at most daily. So we are going to love and leave Jennifer Greco and Jen. Thank you very much for everything. And I look forward to sharing some cheese and wine with you.
Oh, me too. Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Thanks again.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Paris, A State of Mind, featuring Gail of Perfectly Paris and Marie of Loquim, both who are founding members of the SPLM. Paris, A State of Mind is produced by Paris Underground Radio. The music, Jazz in Paris, is by Media Right Productions. For more information on this show and others, go to parisundergroundradio.com.
This episode of Paris, A State of Mind was produced by Jennifer Garrity for Paris Underground Radio. For more great content, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Paris Underground Radio.